This is All Dolphins Talk on the Ourlads Football Network. As we talk Miami Dolphins football with Alan Pupar, publisher of All Dolphins at the Maven, SI, NFL Network, and editor of Dolphin Digest. Good talking to you again, Alan.
How are you, Greg?
Doing good. Better than the Dolphins, coming off a loss to Seattle. Very good football team. And that's been the story of the Dolphins so far for 2020, as they have now dropped 3 games, two of them to undefeated teams. The other team, New England, really 2-1 with Cam Newton. And that right there is important, because we always talk about, I mean, I try to stress it as much as possible every season, that you don't really know about teams for a variety of reasons almost until midseason, because of free agency, how many new players you have every year now compared to years past, and then of course matchups and things like this, where the Dolphins just, they played one team that was beatable. They beat them. They took care of them. They had a really easy time at it as well, pretty much. But the other 3 games, they were in all 3 games against really good competition.
They gave themselves a chance to win all 3 of those games. Were not able to finish, but that's a sign of a good team as well, to the ability to make plays in the fourth quarter when the game's on the line. And the Dolphins weren't able to do that. That said, I mean, let's look where they were at this time last year. They were 0-4 and had been outscored by, 150 to 20 or something, to some ridiculous number like that. So there's obviously been major progress made, but they're not where they want to be. And the next step is finding a way to beat one of those good teams when they get the chance, as they did against Seattle, as they did against Buffalo, as they did against New England. And again, you mentioned the one game where they played against a not-so-good team. They not only won that game, they dominated that game from start to finish. So let's say that the Dolphins clearly are a better team. They're not there yet, and the next step is beating a good team.
And that's why I think they have a good chance this week, because San Francisco is still a banged-up football team. Now, I haven't heard, of course, it's too early in the week to know who's going to be back. But if we're going to see the same Niners team, as far as some of and meaning no Jimmy G and a few of the other guys, Mostert and so forth, that are not going to play, I think the Dolphins have a really good chance of winning this football game. I mean, all you got to do is look at the game on Sunday night to see that the Niners are a vulnerable team.
Yeah, and they lost to an 0-2-1 Eagles team that really wasn't playing very well. And you go on Twitter last week, and the talk is Doug Peterson going to get fired? And all of a sudden, they're in first place in the NFC. So
yeah,
it just goes to show you. But the 49ers, clearly they're not the same team as the one that went to the Super Bowl just last season. And a big part of that is just been absolutely devastated by injuries. I mean, it's crazy. You look at the players they've lost, including very significantly Nick Bosa, who might be their best defensive player, the NFL Rookie Defensive Player of the Year, or I should say NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year last year, who's out for the season. Yeah, as you mentioned, we don't know whether they'll have Jimmy G. We don't know whether they'll have Raheem Mostert. They will have George Kittle, who came back on Sunday night and was absolutely phenomenal. And obviously, job number 1 for the Dolphin defense is going to make sure that Kittle does not single-handedly beat them. Yeah. Now, as far as the quarterback situation is concerned, if it's Jimmy G, who, while not necessarily a great quarterback, obviously is a lot better than either Nick Mullins or C.J. Beathard, and it presents a whole different set of problems for the Dolphin defense.
All right, now let's wrap up the Seattle game, because the game really, there were a couple of key moments. The first one was just before halftime. It looked like, and I've watched enough of Russell Wilson to know that you are never safe at the end of a half with Russell Wilson. He's going to try and throw. I don't know anybody, and we saw it with the Patriot primetime game when he had 3rd and short and decided to chuck a bomb. That he just wings it, and he doesn't care. And he did it again, and he was able to connect on a 57-yard pass with 24 seconds left in the first half. That set up a huge touchdown so they can go up 8. And then the biggest one of all was, in my opinion, and I'm sure this was the talk in Miami, when the Dolphins had 3rd and 3 from the Seattle 9, and they ran the ball on that play to Gaskin. He lost 2 yards, 9 minutes left. They kicked the field goal, and you could tell Russell Wilson on the touchdown drive was probably running that drive like they were losing, knowing that I've got to score a touchdown here and not leave it up to my defense. And that's what he did. And that was the game. So that's going to happen. And these are the things that good teams have got to do to get over the hump. But I think tell me what was the talk as far as that call on 3rd and 3 to run the ball and then, kick the field goal. Was that, the fans, did you think that was the right way to go about doing it? And also, just generally how the team was not able to come through once again in a tight game.
Well, I'll start with the 3rd and 3 call, and it's really easy to sit after the fact and say that was a terrible call because Gaskin lost 2 yards. The reality is that the previous 3 times Gaskin had carried the ball, he had gained 5, 9, and 7 yards.
Okay.
So it's not like the passing game hadn't been working. In fact, that series started, I believe it was at the 16-yard line on 1st down. Fitzpatrick tried to hit Mike Gesicki, didn't connect, so it was 2nd and 10. Then Gaskin gained 7 yards. Then we got to 3rd and 3, where the Dolphins got really badly beat at the line of scrimmage, which allowed penetration, which gave Gaskin no chance whatsoever. So now you're faced with the 4th and 5, considering who they were facing, the fact they had been trailing the entire game, and this was their chance to take the lead. I think at the time and after the fact, when it's easy to second guess, the clear play there would have been to go for the 1st down.
Well, what were you thinking as the game was going on?
You're thinking at some point they're going to have to score a touchdown because settling for field goals is not going to get it done.
So even though you were okay with the 3rd down run play, you felt they were going to go for it. You thought that was the call.
Oh, no question. That was the play. They had to go for it at that time. Again, because you're not going to beat Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, generally speaking, kicking field goals. And the way they had moved the ball, I did not understand that call. And Brian Flores, after the game, was asked about that call, and he kind of, without saying I wish I had it back, kind of said I wish I had it back.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's when, if the situation arose again, I think absolutely he would go for the 1st down. And maybe he was influenced by the fact that the Seahawks went for a 1st down and 4th down in the first half instead of kicking a chip shot field goal and got stuffed.
Yeah, that was also surprising. Yeah.
Correct. That was a strange move. That was really, that one was strange.
Yeah.
And I'm the type who likes going for it pretty much all the time. In that particular situation, I'm thinking
that was out of nowhere. It's like that's a field goal. What are you doing?
Yeah. And then the thing at the half is like, first of all, Dolphins kick a field goal with 24 seconds left, and they kick the touchback. It's 24 seconds from the 25-yard line, and I'm like getting ready to write in my play-by-play. Okay, Russell Wilson kneels end of the half, and I see they're going for it.
Yeah.
How you allow a wide receiver to get behind the secondary is just completely baffling. That's obviously a horrible screw up.
Was it somebody's specific screw up?
Well, the 2 guys who were in the vicinity were Noah Benogany, the rookie 1st-round pick, who's had some really rough times.
Yep.
In extended action, and then you had Jamal Perry was a deep safety on that side.
Okay.
And Benogany had the coverage early on, and then kind of moved inside and let David Moore run right by him, and Jamal Perry was late coming over.
Okay.
Whose man was it? I don't know. I don't know what the defensive call was. That's not information you're going to get from the Dolphins.
Sure.
We're going to pin it on a communication issue or something to that effect, but they'll never say, yeah, he was supposed to get deep help. But it's inexcusable, and all of a sudden you're turning into you just kicked a field goal to make it 10-9, and all of a sudden you go into halftime 17-9. Yep. Now, having said that, the Dolphins were able to overcome that, and they got the next field goal to make it 17-12, which is when we arrived at the more crucial point of the 4th and 5 from the 11-yard line when they settled for the field goal, and then watch Russell Wilson drive him down the field to basically end the game.
Yeah. And as Flores says, we have to finish better. And that is true. There's no question about that. But this is what young teams have to learn. And it's not like talent-wise on paper, this is a playoff football team. This is the part of rebuilding. You draft players, you're young players, and these young players have got to learn how to win. But there's also the quarterback situation. And you're probably surprised that it took me almost 10 minutes to bring it up. But that was the big story, of course, down in Miami, the whole quarterback thing. And we knew this was going to well, we talked about it happening every week, but now it really happened. And so let's dive into that. What really, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, what got everybody buzzing was when Flores basically talked about, well, I think what was the quote? I would presume it's going to be Fitzpatrick. That was really what got the media confused. What do you mean you presumed? Is that doesn't sound like you're really endorsing Fitzpatrick? And I just would guess Flores misspoke. I don't know.
No, and because it also wasn't just using the term presume. It was the fact that this is the way the Zoom media session started. Basically, the first question is, who's going to be your starting quarterback on Sunday?
Okay.
And in the past, when that's been asked in a situation like this, it's basically been, it's going to be Fitz. Well, in this case, it was very, very long pause, followed with, look, we've just started going over the corrections from yesterday, and then we'll meet as a staff Monday evening like we always do, and we'll see how everything goes, but I'll presume it's going to be Ryan Fitzpatrick. Well,
okay.
The totality of everything in play here, the big pause, the hesitation, and the presume, that's what raised the antenna of every reporter on that call, and then everybody afterward prompted to write stories. Is there some hesitation? Which is why Tuesday morning you saw the Dolphins put out a Twitter statement saying Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to be starting quarterback, basically because a lot of speculation was created by the comments made by Brian Flores on Monday, and the Dolphins basically wanted to get that over with very quickly.
And he also talked about how the Herbert Burrow, they're playing so well, and that's not relevant to Tua. I get completely what he means by that, but the fans and the media, we see what's going on with Burrow and with Herbert, and we know how talented Tua is. And if he's healthy, and that's not the problem, then it's like, well, look at the example of Herbert. I know it's a different coach, but Anthony Lynn was not even thinking anywhere near that he was going to start Herbert. It was Taylor's my guy. Herbert's not ready. He even talked down Herbert after the first game that he played, which actually played really well against Kansas City, sticking up for Taylor. But now Herbert, more time he's out there, the better he is. And it's like you say to yourself, how did he not think he was ready? And I think that's what gets maybe at least me and maybe other fans and media members to go, well, yeah, but they didn't think Herbert was ready. Look how good Herbert's playing. So maybe you don't think Tua is ready, but maybe he is ready, and you won't know until you get him out there and play him.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of things going on over there with that whole situation because, well, here's the thing. It's not relevant how well Herbert and Burrow are doing, isn't it, though? If Tua is supposed to be the same kind of prospect as either of those two guys, shouldn't he be at the same level of readiness?
Yes.
Now, so that basically indicates, well, maybe he's not ready to perform at that level from a preparation stand, from a playbook, learning the offense, mastering the offense, all of that.
Yes.
And then there's the medical issue at play, and there were more eyebrows that were raised on Monday when Brian Flores basically said, yes, that Tua has checked all the medical boxes, but if this was my kid, I wouldn't want to be rushed into throwing him into the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
And is there a concern of rushing him too quickly from a medical standpoint? If that's the fact, why is he not on IR? Why is he the number 2 quarterback, one play away from being thrown into action?
So that wasn't clarified whether or not he meant it in a medical way. That statement.
Well, his quote was literally, and this is as close as I can remember it. I haven't written it down, but it was along the line. If it was my kid, I wouldn't want to be pressured into rushing him after the hip injury he had last year.
Oh, okay. So it was regarding the injury. Okay.
But he said that right after saying that Tua has checked all the medical boxes.
Yeah. Okay.
So in that sense, which is it?
Yeah.
And again, so if Tua is medically ready to go, then is he not ready to go to perform at a high level from a NFL readiness standpoint? And if there are some concerns about his ability either to take a hit on the hip,
he shouldn't even be active. Yeah,
correct. Or they should have IR'd him or made him start training camp on PUP until that question was clearly out of the way. So there is still some confusion and some questions left to be answered there.
I mean, you would have to guess. Flores seems like he's a pretty smart guy. You'd have to guess that it can't be a health thing, because there's no way that he would put the kid in that position where Fitzpatrick went down. Oh, go ahead. Go. Yeah, I know you're not ready medically, but I know you got to go in the game and maybe I'm going to ruin your career. I just can't imagine that's the case.
No, correct, which is why the statement he made was kind of a little bit out of left field and a little bit weird, to be very honest.
Yeah.
No, and again, if there were concerns that one hit and he's going to be done,
yeah.
Again, I can't see how we would be on the active roster. So I can only, and again, we don't see Tua in practice because the media is only allowed for the first 20 minutes, which is basically warming up and then conditioning and all that stuff. So we don't know how well he's looked in practice, how well he's running the offense. Yeah. All we go by is basically what the Dolphins are telling us when we ask for comments, and what coach is going to say, well, you know what, Tua's kind of struggling with some things. It's going to be a while before he's ready to go. That's just not going to happen. So what you're going to get is he's making very progress. He's working hard. He's doing everything we were asking of him.
You know, it's interesting. It's interesting because there's a kind of a correlation to when Chad Pennington was about to take over for the Jets and Vinny was there, and you had Herm Edwards, a defensive coach, and it would drive you crazy as a fan. Now, Fitzpatrick is actually playing better than Testaverde was at that time. So it's even worse back then as a Jet fan watching Testaverde come out there every week, and you're like, can't you get Chad? We're enough of Vinny. Get Chad Pennington in there. But I think a lot of it had to do with, well, practice, and these are the things that Herm would say. He read between the lines, and you could tell that he felt more comfortable with Vinny than Chad because Vinny's a pro in practice. He knows everything. He throws a great ball. He doesn't want to rush the kid who doesn't look like he's ready, because how do you compare the two? Vinny looks a lot more ready in practice than Chad does. And that's the same thing with Fitzpatrick and Tua. I got to believe that in practice, of course, Fitzpatrick looks a lot better than Tua. Right. It's practice. This guy's been around for 15 years, but you got to kind of get that out of your mind and just say, look, the kid has got to get an opportunity to get out there and play if he's healthy. And you think, as best you can, that he's got the head for it right now, and he does understand the playbook.
Sorry, I'm not with you on that one, and I'll tell you why. Here's the thing. Number one is, as you mentioned, Ryan Fitzpatrick has been playing well.
Yes.
Didn't have a great game against Seattle, but that said, he threw for 315 yards, completed 29 of 45, which is, help me out here with the math, that's more than 60%. So he wasn't horrible. He had 2 picks, one of which happened when his arm was hit as he was releasing the ball. The other one was when they were in desperation mode after going down by 9. So there were factors at play here. And then before that, he played really, really well against Jacksonville, and he played well against Buffalo.
Yeah, I don't think he's losing the games for that.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, Greg, is the Dolphins right now, you throw in Tua right now because you need to see what you have in Tua, which at some point is going to have to happen. But if you do it now, 3-4 games in, you're basically and you are under the impression that he's not ready to compete at that level, because the Dolphins thought he was ready to produce on a consistent level at the NFL level. Trust me, he'd have been on the lineup by now. So there's a hesitation in terms of his readiness. Now, if you're putting him in there thinking he's not totally ready, that basically you're saying, well, let's forget about 2020. 2020 is about establishing Tua and building him up for the next year. By sticking with Ryan Fitzpatrick, as we mentioned, they're 1-3 with 3 games that they could have won. Their schedules is about to get easier based on records. And 7 teams are making the playoffs in each conference this year as opposed to 6. Who's to say they can't make a run if Fitzpatrick goes back to playing the way he played against Buffalo and Jacksonville? So there, again, as we mentioned, that there's no reason to hold him back if he's ready. There's no reason to rush him if there's a feeling that he's not quite ready to be the Tua that the Dolphins hope that he'll become.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I don't, like you said, because you can't see him for yourself. So everything that we're relying on here is the coaches. They're the ones that this is their job. This is what you trust. And like I said with Lynn, well, he thought Herbert wasn't ready, but Herbert's ready. So it's not an exact science. it's not 100% when they're not ready, they actually are, and vice versa. It's a crapshoot. You don't know. You could stick him in there and he could regress, and it could be the worst decision in the world. But you could also stick him in there on Sunday, and he leads the Dolphins to a victory, and all of a sudden you've got Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, and two is the man. So I get it. It's this is the kind of stuff that you talk about on shows that kind of gets half of the audience, especially I would say more than half the audience, going crazy.
Oh, I would tell you, I think the decision, that Twitter announcement this morning was not very popular. I think a lot more of the fandom really wants to see him in there already because they can't wait to see what they've got. Well, what they've got now is not going to be what they're going to get later this year or next year or down the line. And that's the thing that fans have to understand.
Yeah, and I think if this is also the early stages of the organization that is there, especially Flores. There's no rush. Flores' job isn't on the line, so there's no reason in their minds to rush to if they don't think, especially like you said, hey, you know what? If he's not ready and we're wrong, or we're right and he's not ready, and we just throw away a few games, hey, maybe by the end of the season we have 7 wins and we could have had 9. And we could be in the postseason, and that would be a really good thing for this young team to play in a postseason game. So I get it. I completely understand. But I also, we all understand why the fans want to see him.
Sure. And I'll tell you one more thing, though, about Tua, though, is I saw pretty much all of the practices that were open to the media and training camp. And you see some things that he does that are really advanced in terms of awareness and pocket presence and all that. By the same token, there were a lot of throws that he made, and there wasn't anything that really jumped out at me and said, "Oh man, this kid needs to be in the lineup right now."
Okay.
So he looked like a typical rookie quarterback.
All right. Speaking of rookies, Austin Jackson got injured in the game, the left tackle. Not that he's had a great year, but he's a rookie. And Julian Davenport came in for 25 snaps. He seemed to play okay. Do you think Julian Davenport might get a shot, whether Austin Jackson's healthy or not?
No, he's not going to get a shot if Austin Jackson is healthy.
Okay.
No question. And that Austin Jackson actually was the one who was beaten on that play where Fitzpatrick's arm was hit on that interception.
Yeah,
that was one bad play.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, but this is where I was going to say. Outside of that, I think he's been fine. I mean, to me, the mark of an offensive lineman doing his job is you basically don't hear their name.
Okay.
Because outside of those rare occasions where you see a guy who gets a lot of pancake blocks and gets a lot of attempts, your offensive lineman, if you don't hear about them, it's because they're doing a good job. Because that means they're not getting beat for sacks or they're not getting penalties. So from that standpoint, I think he's been solid. I don't think he's going to the Pro Bowl, but he's been solid. And he's a first-round pick. In my mind, there's a 0.1% chance he doesn't start if he's healthy to go.
Okay. And you mentioned, I believe in one of your tweets about, in earlier, you also mentioned Gesicki. I didn't realize that he only has had 2 receptions in his last 2 games. That can't be.
Oh, but it can, unfortunately.
That's not good.
No, and it's 2 catches, and it's 3 targets against Jacksonville and 3 targets against Seattle, catching 1 pass each time. That was a question that was asked of offensive coordinator Chan Gailey on Tuesday morning, and he basically said after what Gesicki did against Buffalo, do you blame the defenses for paying a lot of attention to him? So the question is now, is he winning his one-on-one battles to get open? I can tell you I saw one play that I specifically zoned in on. One of his 3 targets against Seattle was exactly that first down pass on that series that ended with the field goal on 4th and 5 instead of going for it. Well, that particular pass pattern was a deep post, and the route that Gesicki ran was not particularly impressive. Didn't really sell anything other than going straight up the middle, and didn't shake the DB, who wound up getting his hand on the ball to force the incompletion. So I haven't been privy to see all of the other routes he ran. Let's see what he's doing, if he's beating coverage of the line of scrimmage, if he's getting open down the field, or if it's a matter of him getting double-teamed a lot, the Dolphins not looking in his direction. But the bottom line is this is a guy who was a major factor in the game against Buffalo when the Dolphins came close to beating a really good Buffalo team, and they need to get him back on track.
Yeah, because Devontae Parker is turning into a star for Miami, and the main reason, as you mentioned, this week, has been the fact that he is now learning how to play through pain, and that is so important for young players all across the NFL. And lo and behold, it just shows you that when he can get out there and play, even if he is, and the thing is, and as you pointed out, he has 2 receptions for 14 yards before the injury.
Mm-hmm.
Comes back after the injury with 8 receptions for 96 yards. So not only is he learning to play through pain, sit on the sidelines while he's hurt, saying, "No, I'm getting in, I'm getting in, I'm getting in," but then when he gets in, he's actually playing better.
Well, I know he's just a terrific wide receiver. I mean, he's got the great size and he runs good routes and he makes the catch. And this was quite the admission from him to say that he basically had to learn that sometimes you have to play with some pain if you're going to play in the NFL.
Yep.
Because I'll be honest with you, when he went out with the ankle injury in that first quarter, the only thing you can think of is, oh no, here we go again, Parker sidelined. And 3 or 4 years ago, not sure he comes back. But now not only does he come back, but he's by far the most important player and the best player on the offense in that particular game. So, yeah, it's been quite the progression for his career, and he's now safe to use the term elite receiver when you're talking about Devontae Parker.
Speaking of injuries, Byron Jones missed the game again, and that is really damaging to the Dolphins because that means not only, I mean, you talked about the rookie, and he's had a whole growth of pains as any rookie corner is going to have so far this season, but also Nick Needham, as you pointed out, it's crazy how he goes from no snaps to starting to no snaps to starting. And it's not like he's played all that well when he has started. But overall, no matter what, they have to get Byron Jones back in there if the Dolphins are going to stand a chance, especially when teams line up some of the really good receivers out there like Seattle and Buffalo and so forth.
Yeah, no, that's very problematic. I mean, their whole plan in terms of their defense was to build from the secondary secondary forward, I should say. And that hasn't been able to happen because of Jones being out all this time. I mean, he's basically played a game and 4 plays. And Igbenogany has good potential, great physical skills, and could develop into a good cornerback at some point, but he's obviously a little bit overmatched right now, and he's got this nasty habit of getting caught staring into the backfield and letting the receiver run right by him. And
yeah, that's not good.
You don't get away with that in the NFL, and that's been a big issue. And it wasn't just a long 57-yard pass near the end of the first half. It happened on a couple of other occasions. In fact, the last touchdown to David Moore, again, was another case of Igbenogany staring to the backfield, letting Moore run behind him to create just enough separation where Wilson throws a perfect pass. Moore makes this great catch in the back of the end zone, and voila, touchdown.
And also on defense, Jerome Baker is not having a great year. Matter of fact, 44 snaps. Maybe you think Flores finally, it was like okay, that's it. You know, you got to start playing better because that was the lowest snap total since December of 2018. He left the game with 1 tackle and an assist.
Well, Flores has mentioned it several times that the playing time is basically dictated by who's playing well, and Baker really hasn't been an impact player so far this season. And it's kind of disappointing because he played like 97% of the defensive snaps last year and looked like he was on his way to making a really big impact, even though he's not the prototypical 3-4 linebacker because he is undersized. But didn't look like he was going to make that huge of a difference. But this year he's taken a step back and not making a whole lot happen. And the same goes if you're going to talk about players not doing quite as much as maybe the hope had been. As Christian Wilkins, another one, had 44 snaps against Seattle, was credited with 1 assist. Now, granted, you play the interior of the defensive line in a team that lines up mostly in a 3-4. It's tough to get a lot of tackles, but still, you can still impact the game without necessarily getting tackles or assisted tackles or forced fumbles and the like, and we're just not seeing that from Wilkins.
Yeah, overall this season, I mean, you've seen stretches from Wilkins and Van Noy, obviously, the pass rush, and Shaq Lawson, and even Ogba, some plays on Sunday, but it just hasn't been enough consistency especially from the young kids. And this is what it's about. You're drafting these kids, trying to develop them. And that's been, I think, the disappointing part. The front seven, the young kids, not seeing anything so far. There's a long way to go, but it's just not happening yet.
No, there hasn't been a ton of impact from that standpoint. And I think one guy I would point as being very disappointing is Raekwon Davis, who was
Yes.
their second of 2 second-round picks. Particularly when you consider that the Dolphins bypassed all of those second-round running backs to take Davis at 56. And defensive tackle is one of those positions. It's not easy for any rookie to make an impact in the NFL, but defensive lineman usually is the one position where it's basically, see ball, go get ball, attack ball, or occupy blockers if that's your assignment. And he looked in camp like he was going to be somebody who would be able to do that, and it just hasn't shown up. And that's reflected in his playing time the last couple of weeks, where he's getting anywhere between 15 and 20 snaps. So that particular player has been a bit of a disappointment. Absolutely.
I've actually over the years, I've seen more disappointment, and I'm not saying Raekwon Davis is going to be a disappointing player for his career. I've just seen more disappointment from all of this Alabama talent than I've seen. Wow, look how good they are in college, and look how good they are in the pros. And I know it's the system, and when you put all these 5-star, 4-star kids together, it's just they all, and they don't have to play so many snaps, and it's just they got a monster recruiting. Maybe sometimes we take some of these kids and elevate them a little bit too soon. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not saying that's going to happen to Raekwon Davis. It's just, Quinnen Williams is off to a slow start with the Jets. He looks better in year 2. I've just seen a lot of guys from Alabama that just seem to take their time.
You know what, though? I think that might be more on defense, though, and then that
defense,
speaks
correct.
That speaks to Saban's genius.
Yep.
With his scheme, because I think if you look on offense, like Derrick Henry's worked out well, Mark Ingram was worked out well,
wide receivers, yep.
So I think maybe it's an issue with those defensive players, and again, that maybe their level of play gets elevated by playing in the Nick Saban scheme defense, and then when they come here. But this would be again, it is very early for Raekwon Davis to start sounding the alarm bell. However, this was a guy who was picked on physical ability, not necessarily on production, because he did nothing in Alabama after a huge 2017 season.
Yeah.
So if this is just a continuation of looks great, but that doesn't necessarily get a whole lot done on the field on game day, that doesn't necessarily bode well.
Okay, and kind of closing here on a good note, and that's Jason Sanders, who was 5 for 5. So you don't want to see your field goal kicker go 5 for 5. But it's better than going 1 for 5 or even 4 for 5. So 5 for 5, perfect. That's great. You want to be scoring touchdowns, though. But he's 9 for 9 on the season, and that's a good thing. He's a young kicker, and hopefully the more he kicks and the better he performs, the more consistency he shows, then you can kind of feel, maybe we got a long-term answer here.
Oh, no question. I mean, he's money right now, and it's not just that he's 9 for 9. If you look at every one of his kicks, I mean, it's right down the middle. They haven't really even come close to missing. So, and if you don't have to worry about changing kickers from year to year,
I
mean, obviously that's a great thing. And you've seen around the league some kickers who are like sporadic all over the place.
Yes.
If you can get your hands on a Justin Tucker or something anywhere close to a Justin Tucker, that'd be just gravy.
All right, so San Francisco, how are you feeling about the game? Because again, I think this is going to be, look, if Jimmy G plays, I still don't think if Jimmy G plays, that's it. Dolphins don't have a chance, but because they still have receivers banged up too. So, and it's interesting that when Jimmy G plays, George Kittle's actual production seems to go down. George Kittle seems to have these monster games with the backups. It happened in 2018. It happened on Sunday night. So I don't know what that's about. But even if Jimmy G plays, I expect this to be a very competitive football game. And I actually think if Jimmy G doesn't play, I think Dolphins might win this game.
Yeah, I think Kittle's a security blanket for those backup quarterbacks when they're in
probably,
the game.
Right?
They look to him. We don't know where to go. Let's go to Kittle. Obviously the task becomes a lot more difficult if Jimmy G plays. I think the biggest issue in this game for the Dolphins is the trenches. let's not kid ourselves. San Francisco made the Super Bowl last year, not because of Jimmy G, not because of Kittle, not because of Deebo Samuel, but pretty much because their offensive line and defensive lines both were like top 3 in the NFL. They've taken some hits on both lines and not quite at that level so far this season, but that's where the battle is a concern for me when it comes to this game. The Dolphins are going to have to hold their own with their defensive line and the front 7 to stop the San Francisco running game, regardless of whether Raheem Mostert comes back.
Yep.
And on the other side, the Dolphins have to protect Ryan Fitzpatrick. They got to keep an eye on Eric Armstead, who is a very, very good player, who obviously has stepped up a little bit in the absence of Nick Bosa. But this is going to be a tough challenge for the Dolphins. Not an unwinnable game, however. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, no question, this is a game they can win. But again, if they put themselves in a position to win in the fourth quarter, they have got to get it done at some point.
That's right. That's the next step. No question about it. Who do the Dolphins play after San Francisco?
They're at Denver the following Sunday.
Okay. Are they coming back east?
I believe so. I have not heard their travel plans yet, but I believe so.
Do you think that's a little bit of the reason why you mentioned the schedule is going to get a little easier? Do you think that's into the equation of why Tua, you know what? Not because San Francisco is a good team, but just like when you mentioned, they're even look, Bosa and Thomas are not in there. That is a big help, but that's a team that dominates at the line of scrimmage, and the Dolphins have some issues along the offensive line, so you don't necessarily want Tua running for his life against that type of defense. Not just because you don't want to see him throw interceptions, but you don't want to see him get hurt. So I wonder if that's even just a little bit of a percentage of why they decided, this isn't the time to put Tua in.
That could be a little bit of a factor. I will give you that. I think if we were talking the 2019 San Francisco defensive line, yeah. I think absolutely it would be a major factor. That again, this is not quite the same.
No, Bosa's out, line. Thomas out, yeah.
Yeah, but I still think maybe it has played a little bit of a part in it. I think it's more. It speaks more to just right now they feel more comfortable with Brian Flores as their guy to help win them games right now, which is their focus.
All right. Well, unless they win, that the question might even be the first question after the game, unless they win. Then it'll be the fifth question. But no, if they lose, it'll be the first question, and then we'll have to go through this again. But we knew that. You knew that going in. We said it in the preseason. It's going to keep being the question asked every week until he plays. So it is what it is.
No question about it. Yeah, absolutely. We knew what the drill was going to be.
Alan, appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you next Tuesday.
You got it, Greg. Look forward to it.